Chapter 14. The Friendly Enemy. I received a letter from New York while sojourning in Florida, which contained the following. The report has gone around that you died last week. Of course, we know it is not true, but how do these things get started? I had to reply to this letter somewhat after the following manner. In the language of Mark Twain, I must say that the report of my death is greatly exaggerated, and yet somehow or other the same report is true. The offices of death are many. According to St. Paul, death is one of the most helpful and necessary things that can be performed. He advised the habit of dying daily, and this prefaced the glorious possibility of being born daily also. There is something back of the idea, death which is replete with substance for meditation. Death brings with it oblivion, a blotting out, as it were. In reality, it can only occur on the plane of changeable manifestation. There is no possibility for death to enter the precincts of the changeless life of spirit. When you die to anything, you are through with it. Just as in the relative sense of the word, when a man dies, he is immediately separated from all his possessions, good, bad, or indifferent. His debts are cancelled as far as he is concerned. His estate is disintegrated almost immediately and no longer is attached to him. Like a cloud of dust in a hurricane, his entire affairs are scattered in all directions. When the dust settles, the place thereof is no more, and the particles have gone into another pattern. Not understanding life, the greatest enemy is death. It deprives life of its manifestation. When Jesus became conscious of life, he could pass in and out of the shadow called death, almost as if passing through a purifying fire. When he arose from what appeared to be physical death, even his disciples did not recognize him until he allowed himself to take on enough of the former beliefs to which he had died for them to do so. All along the way to Emmaus, they could not distinguish the man with whom they had been for 3 years. I have power to pick it up or lay it down. The I of which we so often speak, and which Jesus designated as the Father, has power to pick up the embodiment, pick it up so completely that it has none of the limitations of belief, or to lay it down. Hence, this very I can cause the body, its own embodiment, to become lighter than water, to transcend all laws of cohesion, adhesion, gravity, and inertia, even interference and resistance. Cause it to pass through the crowds and even to the other side of the lake. All this is outside of the relative beliefs and still in the midst of them. In the world, but not of it. We are not going to heaven, but we are performing death in the belief that we are in hell, trying to work our way into heaven through a never-ending corridor of problems. The power of life and death are in the tongue. There is a fearless approach to the word death in this sense, an almost friendly idea. It appears to be one of the cleansing agencies. To die daily, as Paul instructs, is to be born daily. It is a letting go of used ideas and a taking up of new and fresh possibilities without any hangovers or memories or beliefs. The former things shall pass away. They shall not be remembered nor come into mind anymore. The power of life and death. Surely this is not the evil power from which the human mind shrinks in terror. It is the redeemed idea from which the sting has been removed. Nothing shall be destroyed in all my holy mountain. In this day we are reclaiming all the lost enemies and making them into friends. To tell Jesus of a death was not to upset or startle him. He did not seem to be any more moved than when he heard of a blind man or a poor man asking for aid, even though the evidences of the death had gone so far that the greatest imagination of the human mind could not possibly piece the body together again. He went into the tombs and pronounced the Lazarus come forth, which brought about results. When the eagle is born or hatched, it means death to a thing or a state of things called egg. That much is sure. The former things which were true about the egg are no longer true about the eagle. It is under a different set of beliefs entirely. As an inanimate egg, it is acted upon, but with the death of the egg, it acts. All the beliefs that were true of the egg fall away forever. Marvel not, ye must be born again. And in this new process, it is impossible to carry any of the old estate with you. Many are seeking the new birth, but they do not want to go through death to get it. In other words, they want to hold on to old ideas and at the same time try to express new capacities. It is quite as impossible for a caterpillar to fly as it is for an egg. Both must perform the death upon the thing of which they want to be rid and re-embody themselves with the new idea before they can attain the expression they are seeking. When you learn the proper interpretation of the word death, you will see that it becomes a friend, for it is a cleansing process. It is a letting go completely and ascending to a place where the former things cannot enter in and have nothing whatsoever to do with the present manifestation. Instead of getting rid of things temporarily, man dies completely to the idea and its manifestation. In the new place, he finds himself as incapable of experiencing his former limitations as an eagle flying over the abyss would have in experiencing the cramped quarters of the eggshell from which it evolved. Awake, thou that sleepest, and Christ shall give thee light. Awake and arise from the dead. It is only because the idea of life is transient, and because it is dependent upon muscles and brain, that man is afraid of death. He is in constant fear of it because with his limited sense of life, he knows that it will eventually overtake him. When the new arrives and man begins to sense the idea of life eternal, then the fear of death is transferred into an intelligent understanding of the power of death, which is mentioned as being in the tongue. It is a power to crack the shell of limitation or rip open the cocoon and free the new expression into a place already prepared for it. I go to prepare a place for you, is the assurance that spirit makes to the awakened soul. Just as the place for the butterfly or the eagle is already prepared for it before it cracks its shell or opens its cocoon, so the place is prepared for you when you die to the shell of consciousness, which is holding you in the present irksome limitations. But man, in his limited concept of life, fears death because he thinks of it as oblivion. He thinks of life as having a beginning and an ending. But life has no beginning or ending any more than an egg or a seed has a beginning or an ending. Give it a chance and it will drop off one limitation after another and constantly come forth anew. This is life eternal, to know me. And the only place you can know this me is in the locality indicated by Jesus, that is, within your consciousness. It does not say this is a life which endures for a few years and then lets go, but states without qualification, this, the here and now, is life eternal. It is getting nigh unto us, no matter how the shell of your present beliefs has cramped you. Presently you shall let it go. You shall die to it, and to many other things, in the truest sense of the word, and shall be born again into the new state of being. Give up, let go, call down a blessing, is not a supine drifting into all sorts of chaotic conditions, as many mistakenly believe. Until you understand in some measure the importance of death and life, you cannot let go of anything. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Only speak the word, and my servant shall be healed. Every time the word of life is spoken, it means death to some belief, a dropping off of some manifestation which is held in place by conscious thinking. Yes, the power of life and death is in the tongue, and the power of life eternal is within the contemplation of the me, which Jesus discovered for all of us. A tiny plant starts from its cell and the seed dies. It pushes forth a bud, the flower comes, and the scales or outer leaves die. The flower is born. The fruit pushes out into manifestation and the flower dies. And so it goes ever on and upward into the more glorious manifestation of heaven here and now. The never-ending merging into new and lovelier states takes place when you are ready to die and when the last enemy has become the friend and the sting has been taken from it. With life, we think in terms of light. With death, we think in terms of darkness. The offices of death are oblivion to that which is outgrown and of no further use. If you have not already died to much of the conscious thinking of yesteryears, You are suffering from arrested or retarded mental development. A memory of an accident hovers about with all the conscious thinking that went with it at the time. The mind fixed upon the fortune that it once had and lost, or the health or friends that it once enjoyed and has no more, has not performed the death that Paul so advocates. It is the chick half out of its shell. Awake and arise from the dead. When Jesus aroused Lazarus, he brought him out of the tomb. And when he resurrected himself, he also came out of the tomb. He laid aside the grave clothes and cast off the sweet-smelling garments that had been the badge of the conscious thinking death, and came out from all of them and was free. So when you have gone through the death process and let go of a thing, then arise and go forth out of the tomb of conscious thinking, and do not stand holding on to the beliefs with which you have finished. But what if one has the scars such as Jesus had? Did it ever occur to you that unless Jesus chose to show the scars, they apparently were not visible? That for the moment he descended to the point of conscious thinking where Thomas, who could only believe by seeing with the human eye, could see. No blessing went with Thomas finding out about the resurrection. Blessed is he that believes and does not see. Blessed is that one who does not have to handle with his hand the unseen thing of spirit. That one will be able to see and handle and experience the hidden things. It is wonderful. It is wonderful when you contemplate the power of death in its resurrected sense, when you begin dying in the true sense of the word. All you can die to is conscious thinking. In the conscious thinking lies all the substance of the evils of your daily life. The conscious thinking of Jesus was that of a carpenter. He admitted that he could do nothing of himself. When he died to this, he gave up all the limitations of it and moved by the process of birth into the Father consciousness, where none of the former limitations came into play or had anything whatsoever to do with him. He did not graft the Christ power upon a Jesus consciousness, as many people have tried to do, and make it his own teaching. My doctrine is not mine, but his who sent me, into expression. He dropped off the limitations of Jesus in order to appropriate the consciousness of the Christ, and the two became one. Just as the egg and the eaglet became one, one being lost into the other, absorbed, made one, whole. He that heareth my word, singular, and believeth on him that sent me, hath everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but hath passed from death unto life. Note the singular tense of word, which indicates a power upon which may be strung or shaped the thousands of sounds called languages. The word of God is singular, one, whole. The words of man are legion. They are good, bad, and indifferent, all at once. The word that shall not return unto you void is the word of God, which is not circumscribed in the narrow confines of human language. Note, then, that when you hear the word, there is a passage through the idea of death into life eternal. In other words, you pass from a limited sense of life into life eternal because you die to the limitation of it all. Hath passed. At that very instant, he finds himself through the death of the limitation of the separation of life into the life which is indivisible and which cannot be separated from its innate qualities. Gradually, the idea of death is assuming its proper function. The last enemy is being overcome. The fear of it is being slowly but surely removed by the recognition that life is eternal and that the ascended body, or the body which is spiritualized as was the body of Jesus Christ, is a present possibility. No matter how remote the manifestation may be from you, no matter whether or not you know anyone who has already accomplished it, no matter what an avalanche of testimony there may be against it, the urge persists, and the feel that it is so has eventually taken away some of the fear of the last enemy. Only the things you fear can come upon you. Little by little, you are passing from death into life. The hour cometh, and now is, in which all they that are in the tombs of human belief shall hear his voice and shall rise. When you hear, not with the ear, but with the consciousness of the presence, you will arise from your tomb. Is God a God of the living or the dead? Saul pursued the even tenor of his way. He was endeavouring to establish the kingdom of heaven by violence. Suddenly he was blinded by the light of revelation and died to the soul part of his nature. Saul was like the shell of the egg which gave way before the new manifestation. He must have died to a great many things at that moment, just as you will die to much when you perceive the light. It is recorded that Saul was blinded by the light. It is one thing to be blinded by the light and another to be blinded by the dust of appearances. Many people become blinded by the light of another. They are so curious about how another works the truth that they are unable to see their own light. Looking at the revelation made by another, instead of perceiving the revelation within your own kingdom, turns the heart to resentment and envy, even though it be very humble on the surface. In the new birth which takes place every time a man dies, the light of revelation blinds him. So wonderfully full of manifestation is it. And this very light is death to the past limitations. And so death, when properly understood, becomes the friendly enemy. It is that which throws a veil of oblivion to outgrown or cast off limitations. and causes the Magdalene to look about and see that she has no accusers. Suddenly she is dead to the thing called harlot and all that has gone with it, and she is born at the same instant to something that cannot experience or understand the former state of things. The friendly enemy has released her. And that is the end of chapter 14.